Yo guys, it's JD here back again with another video. Today I have a special guest. I have brought onto the video Alex from UnrealEntGaming. How you doing, man?
What's up, buddy? There's a lot that we're going to talk about, and I don't want you sounding robotic. We're going to have a real conversation because this is going to be, I look forward to it for different reasons.
Yeah, no, same. It's been a while. So I think our last video was that interview you gave me on one of your podcast channels. So, wanted to pay you back, and I think it's a good time.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
We have a lot to talk about, guys. A lot of interesting stuff about Daima, good and bad, and I'm sure you're gonna hear a lot of stuff about kind of where we think the direction of Daima is going. So I want to start with you, Alex. You've been covering the episodes, and you've seen some of the theories that are coming out across the Dragon Ball community, both on Twitter and on YouTube. Same with me. But I want to hear just from based off where we're at right now with episode 7. We're about to get into episode 8 with the first fight with the Tamagamis, number 3. What are you thinking so far with Daima? How is this rolling with you?
Okay, so first things first, I don't want nobody to make this distinction to say that I'm either a fanboy for Daima or I'm a hater. I'm just gonna say what I'm gonna say, and you can make your own determination as to where I stand. So visually, in terms of the sound design, the artistic choice that they went with Daima, it looks beautiful. If anything, this gives me hope for anything related to Dragon Ball Super if they ever want to adapt that and kind of have something to base it off of. I think that Daima is an excellent example of how visually you should go about by having to have Dragon Ball move forward with its visual direction, with its sound design. Maybe include a little bit of Dragon Ball Super Broly because that does represent a lot of the old school Dragon Ball stuff. But so far I am looking forward to seeing what these Tamagamis are going to be about, because from the very beginning they've kind of emphasized by alluding to the fact that these Tamagamis were super really ultimate strong fighters and all this crap. But from episode 2, what really soured me from episode 2 was seeing the fact of when Glorio mentioned, and when he asked Goku, oh, so how did you're strong enough to defeat Buu, yada yada, and to see Goku kind of confirm that, only for Goku to ask, so are Gomah or other people down there, are they just as tough as Buu? And for him to say no only goes as far as to confirm two things. Number one, Vegeta, Goku, and Gohan are by and large the strongest non-fused characters thus far in the series, period. That's irrefutable fact, thus far at least, right? And if Glorio himself had confirmed that nobody down there in the demon realm is up to par with Majin Buu, that just goes as far as to kind of sour the idea and ruin the tension and suspense of introducing any sort of villain that is going to give our heroes a significant run. And we've seen that from episode 1 up until episode 7. Nobody had given Goku any sort of remote pushback in forcing him to actually try, with the exception of maybe, and you can use this term very loosely with Glorio, but even then Glorio quit out against Goku because he knew that Goku was so much more superior than him, and he knew how much power Goku was holding back. It was a joke. So thus far, in terms of the villains, I hate every single villain in this series because they are subpar. Nobody's actually credible enough to give our heroes some sort of pushback, or at least create some sort of tension that makes our heroes kind of question on whether or not it's a good idea to go up against such entities. For example, back in Dragon Ball Z, we had that tension with Frieza. We had that tension with the androids. We had that tension with Cell. We had that tension with Majin Buu, Super Buu, Kid Buu. We've had that tension. You want to go into Super, a series that takes place after? Sure. But thus far, they're alluding to this idea of simply getting to Gomah so they can get these Dragon Balls and undo the wish. Okay, but where is the tension? Where is the overall atmosphere or the buildup for the villains to make them seem important? The only ones that I'm looking forward to thus far, because he is, or at least he does give off these traitorous vibes, are Glorio. So I'm hoping that he becomes someone that is subverted to be a good guy, only to later become a bad guy. I think that would definitely work. And I am also looking forward to seeing as to what Degu and Orizu are going to be doing once they end up concocting their plan. I don't see, in my opinion at least, Gomah being the be-all end-all bad guy for this series. If that ends up being the case, that's going to be a surprise, because from the beginning he was taken as a joke. And what has he done so far? What has he done so far to give off any sort of exposition to his character or kind of explore more behind like the lore of why he's supposed to be in this position outside of simply having to take up after Deborah. Nothing. There is no substance here. So that is why I look forward to, if anything, seeing where Glorio's character is going to go. Seeing if maybe Shin, that's his name, Shin, the Supreme Kai. I forget about this other exposition about, well, his real name is, no, his name has been Shin for 25 years. I'm going to refer to the Supreme Kai as Shin. I want to see if Shin is going to be able to talk to his siblings, maybe convert or try to convert his siblings into not doing what they're going to be doing, or at least going down the path in which they want to go down and essentially end up do, which is conquering the demon realm, because I think that they want to do, I think that they want to kind of take that away from Gomah, because it's very evident that they don't respect him, that there is no sort of, hierarchical position, especially with Aritsu, the way she looks at Gomah, the way she presents. There's no sort of de facto to determine and kind of separate, Gomah from the others, because Gomah just comes off like a joke. That's why I'm more invested in, Glorio. I'm more invested in Degu, just to see where they go. But thus far, sound design wise, artistically, like everything in terms of the art, the animation, the fluidity, great. I mean, sure, if you want to talk about subtle moments, people call this peak. This is not peak. This is garbage. You want to watch actual peak? Go to OG Dragon Ball, when Goku was battling the Red Ribbon Army, when Goku was participating in the Budokai tournaments, my personal favorite against Jackie Chun, when he was up against, Tien Shinhan, when he was up against Demon King Piccolo. These are things that are exclusive, that were peak. This is not peak. This has been slow paced from the beginning. People, the minority does not speak for the majority, and the majority of people are saying that this is slow, it's boring, it's dull, it's devoid of substance, and we can see why. There's no tension or build up for the villains, because all the villains so far, you can just smack them with the power pole and it's done. So for the Tamagamis, I'm hoping that they could at least provide some sort of substance as, I don't want to call them villains, but opposing figures, because they are guardians of the Dragon Balls. So I don't see them as being villainous per se if you're protecting something. So sure, I hope that for their sake, the Tamagamis actually prove to be formidable enough that can give our heroes a credible run, to which it forces them in those positions to maybe either use fusion, ascend further beyond Super Saiyan 1, maybe use 2, maybe use 3, and go from there. Because so far we've gotten the expositions, learned absolutely nothing. They mentioned how Majin Buu is supposed to be, or supposed to contain, or at least have these interesting characteristics about him that, he can create and use we've already known for decades that Majin Buu possesses various abilities and techniques to which he can use magic, and he's very, susceptible in having to create and use his own variations of techniques to use magic. We've seen him use magic in Dragon Ball Z. Hell, we've seen him use magic in Dragon Ball Super against Moro. So this is why when they add these little tidbits, it's not, some sort of like riveting revelation that, it's nothing that is new to us, because we've seen this for the last 30 years before. We've seen this be done before. So that's why I get very annoyed by seeing stuff like this, because people talk about, oh, this is great. No, it's not. By having to revert the Supreme Kai's name to something else, it changes nothing. By explaining or going into exposition, by, kind of elaborating to the idea that Majin Buu can use, various different or unique magical abilities. Who cares? We've seen that. We've seen what happens when you go inside of him. Pause. We've seen that when Vegeta went inside of him, they defused. We've seen what he was able to do inside by manipulating Gotenks, Gohan, Piccolo, to have them battle against Goku, Vegeta. So how is this like any different, right? It's not. So I'm hoping that as we progress forward, they really start introducing concepts that we've never seen be done in Dragon Ball before. I like the idea that there's like 3 different pockets of like the demon realm, where there's like, one demon realm that rules over the other 2. So that's pretty cool. There's like a hierarchical thing, but everyone down there does not pose a threat. Half of the inhabitants, to which in some cases in certain towns, in certain locations, they're all slaves, right? So, to that, it's like, okay, Deborah was once the Demon King, but what happened to Deborah in Dragon Ball Z? He had a subpar fight with Gohan, and in the beginning, he was introduced as a very formidably terrifying looking villain, because he was that. He was this giant red devil looking creature following the events of Cell. Here he comes, he's battling against Gohan. He called everyone out to a fight and then fights Gohan, backs down, has a scuffle with Buu, gets turned into a cookie, eaten, flatlined, done. So how are we going to sit there and go, oh my God, look at the statue of Deborah down there. Who cares? Who cares? And I'm actually kind of mad that they didn't bring Majin Buu into the demon realm. You can't sit there. None of you watching this video right now, I don't care if you're Jordan, I don't care if you're Geekdom, I don't care if you're Emish. How is anyone gonna look at this and go, oh, having Majin Buu not join our heroes to go down there is a good idea? If Buu was down there with Goku, Glorio, Pansy, and the Supreme Kai, that would have been fire. You want to know why? Because the entirety of every pocket of the demon realm, each section, they fear Buu. All of them feared Buu. They know of Buu. And that correlates to, if you want to go to Dragon Ball Super, that correlates to ROF when Frieza came back and he mentioned how his dad said never pick a fight with two people. The God of Destruction, Beerus, and Majin Buu. So stop playing with me when it comes down to these things, because adding Buu in all of this would have been great. But what is he doing? Running around with Hercule, doing absolutely nothing. Trash. They should have added Buu in that mix, because if you want to talk about magic, if you want to talk about adding and creating suspense, because Buu also has a temper, that would have been great to see. So instead of having, and I hate to say this because I do want to see him be included, but let's just say we replace Piccolo, or we actually replace Vegeta with Buu. How would it be a bad idea to see the Supreme Kai tag along with Glorio, Pansy, Goku, and Buu? That would have been great, because Goku is Goku. He can ascend into Super Saiyan 1, 2, and 3, do his thing. Then we got Buu, the unpredictable factor in all of this, to which they just got done fighting him. That would have been so cool to see as to what it would have been like if Buu, Majin Buu, despite his size, would have been down there to interact with the other inhabitants of the demon realm. That would have been so cool to see, because then what? Then the question arises, how would have the confrontation, or at least the overall face-to-face conversation had went if Gomah came face-to-face with Buu, if Degu came face-to-face with Buu, if Aritsu came face-to-face with Buu? That would have been great, because Buu is playful, Buu is mindful, he's very childlike in his innocence, but he's also a deranged maniac when you piss him off. So that would have been crazy to see, because Goku would have been the one to try to calm him down, if that. So that would have been so cool to see, because here comes incoming Dragon Ball Daima following the events of Buu a few months after, and now we have Buu, the previous antagonist, now turned protagonist, with our heroes join in on the fray, join in with our heroes and having to look for Gomah's castle. And that would have added so much more to the story, because it's not just the typical stuff that we know of. We have the former antagonist join the protagonist. That would have been great. So I know I just went on this gigantic rant / exposition about how I feel about Daima. Daima's not the worst thing in existence. It's just slow. They ruined the tension, the potential of including, and I'm hoping, maybe I'm wrong, maybe they do end up throwing Buu and they show off maybe what Gohan is doing and things of that nature. Maybe they end up doing these things, because I'm sorry, Pansy offers nothing. She's what, a princess that's a little old. I mean, she has a little bit of experience in combat. Nobody cares. You want to add in a female, throw in Android 18 if that. But you know what? I would say replace that. Who cares about Pansy? Useless character that adds nothing to the overall story other than just simply assisting our heroes, to which you could have had anyone else do that. You could have had Buu do that. You could have had one of the androids do that. If you don't want to have 17, you could have had 18 do that, right? If you wanted to have a female. So these are things that I think they could have expanded upon. Keep Glorio. I like Glorio because I wasn't expecting for him to kind of be in on the scheme, because that was different. As soon as he walked out and he was talking to Arinso, I was like, okay, I'm invested, because I want to see where this goes. Is he playing both sides? Is he perhaps maybe just simply playing our heroes and just simply working for, the villains? I think it would be interesting to see if he was playing both sides, to see if he's in on it for himself, because he's not really going to be following to help, Goku and friends, nor does he give a fuck about, Gomah. So it would be interesting to see if he's in on it for himself or not, who knows, but that's where I stand on the position of Dragon Ball Daima. I'm hoping that with the Tamagamis, because my only expectation for them is that once Goku ends up fighting them, he's going to come to realize, oh, okay, this isn't going to be as easy as I thought it was going to be. And perhaps maybe there's something more that adds to the Tamagamis, in which pushes our heroes into using more of their strength. Perhaps maybe collectively having to attack them at the same time, 2-on-1, 3-on-1, whatever the case may be. Maybe use the bug fusion that they came across recently. But to that, I'm interested to see where this goes, because based on everything we've seen from episodes 1 to 7, the Tamagamis should be the ones that are going to be introducing pushback. They have to give pushback. If Tamagami 3 goes down to either base Goku or Super Saiyan Goku early on, that's gonna sour it. I think that's gonna sour on me a little bit, because this entire time they've been building up on, man, don't pick a fight with them. They're really tough. They're guardians. They're this and that. Okay, so you guys have been talking a tough game, and you get put down in what, maybe 1 episode? 2 episodes at that, and you don't even force Goku to exert more power? I don't know. Let's see. I'm looking forward to it, but can it flop? Yeah. But ultimately, can it turn into something worthwhile? Absolutely. And that's what I'm expecting.
No, great thoughts, and there's a lot of things I want to kind of tackle with what you said, but there is some synergy with what I'm going to say as well. In regards to earlier the points you mentioned, the art direction, the animation is amazing. I mean, why wasn't superhero like this? That's a very, very valid criticism.
Yeah.
The beginning part of the first episode was amazing. The retelling of the Buu saga, seeing Gohan.
Dude, all of it so far. Episodes 1 to 7, they all look amazing. They're all great. They're all artistically, the sound design, the music, the choice of the way they're using like the cinematography, everything about it's great looking. And you know what? It almost reinforces the idea of so many people complaining in 2022 and 2023 about superhero, because imagine if superhero looked like Daima. That would have been beautiful. But superhero looked the way it did, and I think that's what soured on a lot of people, because the choice they made for that movie visually was atrocious. The choices they made for Daima visually is great, because from episodes 1 to 7, I know episodes 1 is often talked about because that one shows off more of the action and what, but thus far 1 to 7, beautiful, and I don't think anybody will argue against you on that.
No, I that's why we're, it feels like, what are they doing? Why did they treat this project different than others? But more on that. But in regards to the art point and the animation, I agree with you 100%. Everything's on point as far as the colors, compositions, and everything. Now, in regards to the point you mentioned about the tension, I actually will agree with you on that. That is something where I've seen other reviews. In my case, and all of the stuff that I've looked at up to this point, I think that most of the threats that we're going to see in this series later on, based off what we know, it's going to be within the realm of the Buu saga. I don't think we're going to be seeing threats on the level of, say, Kid Buu. I don't even think we're going to be seeing threats on the level of, say, Gohan. I think most of it's going to be Majin Buu level, like Majin Buu when he still had this evil counterpart, like the way he was introduced when he fought Deborah and Gohan. I think it's going to be on that level. I would be surprised if they go further than that and say have someone on the same level as Kid Buu or even Gohan, because then it would make you think, why didn't Goku and his friends reference those battles? Of course, this is something that would be a retcon, but that's the kind of inclination you would have if that were the case. So I am expecting Deborah level. I am expecting Majin Buu level when he had his evil counterpart, but I don't know if it's going to go up to the level of Gohan or even Kid Buu. Now, in regards to the Tamagamas, I am very excited for the Tamagamas, not just because this is the pivotal point where we're going to see whether they're actually going to kind of make Daima seem more like, okay, there's stuff down the road that's more of a challenge, more of a threat for Goku. I think based off the way they've been introduced, based off what's already been established with them never having been defeated, right? And that would mean that they're above Deborah level, who Deborah would be above Perfect Cell, maybe even Super Perfect Cell. We know that that's the kind of power range with Deborah. I think based off and you might have seen this too in some of your reviews and analysis, if you look at I believe it is the opening, or it was one of the trailers where you see Goku, he does the little energy thrust, which we saw in episode 6. There's another scene where he's doing a Kamehameha and he's in Super Saiyan 2. Based off the background, that scene appears to be this fight. it appears to be that in this fight with Tamagama 3, we're going to see Goku not only go from base, but he's going to go to Super Saiyan, and I think he's going to go to Super Saiyan 2 to finish the job. I don't think we're going to see Super Saiyan 3, but I think it is going to push Goku to use Super Saiyan 2, which means that this fight would be something that, you know, would force Goku to go up to that point. Because remember, we have no idea how Super Saiyan 3 is going to be when we see it in Daima, because is it going to be the same way where it exerts a huge strain on his body like it did when he was in the Buu saga and even in GT, or is it going to be something where it's not having an effect? But I think it's really going to have an effect because it is a first grader body. I think they're going to go with the same logic that they had in GT, as well as the fact that it's his mortal body. It's only 4 months after the events of the Buu saga, so I don't think Goku has worked on the straining factor of the Super.
Yeah, no, you can't expect him to be GT Goku because GT Goku is so well adjusted in that little body of his. So there's a big difference between Goku now and Goku, you know, using his abilities in GT, because he was already so used to it. But, you know, I understand that part. So, but if what you're saying is true, then great. But I don't think that the Tamagami 3 fight with Goku ought to be like one episode. Hopefully, what ends up happening is maybe I'm hoping that Glorio gets it. And the reason why I want Glorio and the others to get involved is because it could give off the illusion like Glorio's really, really working alongside Goku for the greater good, but he's only in on it for himself. Maybe perhaps the only reason why he wants to bulldoze right through the Tamagamis is it's because it brings him one step closer towards, you know, for him to achieve his goals. And I'm hoping that's the case, because prior to him, you know, having that conversation with Aritsu, I was really thinking to myself on saying, okay, this guy sucks, because is he really that good? Is he really that good or that nice of a person to help out a complete stranger just cause? But being the fact that he's not, so he's in on something, he really has like an eye for something. I'm hoping that there's a twist. But the Tamagamis, I agree. I think, and I'm hoping that what you're saying is true. And if anything, I'm hoping that whoever is going to be the last of the Tamagamis that Goku ends up fighting is the one that ends up forcing him to go 3. If thus far he remains 1 and 2 and it goes that far, fine. But before we get to, like, I guess the main baddie of the Demon Realm, or whoever it's going to be, with the third eye and all this fancy stuff, whoever that's going to be, I think prior to that, whichever Tamagami they end up fighting, I think that needs to be the one that really is the toughest, and that gives Goku that fight to which Goku at the end can go, wow, I haven't had a fight like this since I fought Vegeta as a Super Saiyan 2. Perhaps even maybe going as far as to say, hey, that you know, that Tamagami was just as tough as Buu, because I had to use everything just so we can clear past them. So let's advance our way forward into finally having to reach Gomah's castle.
Yeah, no, and on that note, you brought up Gloria a couple of times. I'm also intrigued with whether, you know, where his true allegiance lies. We found in episode 6 that he's working with Dr. Rensu, and you know, there could still be another factor at play there, because we don't know who's really working with Dr. Rensu other than possibly Degu, which, you know, hasn't been revealed yet. But we know that there could be other parties that have not yet been introduced. Now, in regards to Shen, when they were having those conversations in episode 6 in the cave, where they're questioning kind of Glorio's reasonings for kind of doing what he's doing up to that point. Obviously, they didn't know about Glorio's contacts in the first Demon Realm. Shen brought up the fact that, you know, like, why are you choosing to help us? Why are you choosing to go on this journey? And he mentioned that it's because, like, why do you oppose Glorio? And Glorio why are you
Gomah.
Yeah, why are you opposing?
Yeah,
Gomah?
why are you? I was like, how is Gloria opposing Gloria? Yeah, but Gomah.
Yeah,
and that brings me back to my point. Nobody respects this guy from the beginning. We've seen that with his own people, let alone Glorio. So that's why it's like, I'm hoping, you know, Gomah isn't the main baddie in all this, because he's not respected, he's not feared, and therefore he's being treated as a joke by his own people. So therefore, if that's the case, if they're plotting against him, I kind of feel bad for the guy. I kind of want him to pull through, and therefore I want to see either the 3 that we mentioned so far, Glorio, Degu, and Aritsu, be like the ones that are orchestrating all this, and kind of have Gomah sidelined a little bit to say, like, okay, he could be, like, again, the Dr. Hedo of the group. He kind of owns up to the fact, apologizes to Goku and friends, helps them, you know, revert back to their adult forms. You know, they can call it even. So, because he's really not, you know, but, well, I mean, I guess we'll see.
Now, in regards to, because Glorio, you know, obviously opposes Gomah, now, when Shin asked him that, he mentioned that it's because of the treatment of how he treats the Majins in the third Demon Realm, and maybe however they're treated in the other respective realms. Do you think he really means that though? Do you think that Glorio actually has a genuine care for the Majins? Because if you've seen the way he treated Pansy, obviously, and obviously he didn't really want them to join the group, but it's hard right now. It's really hard for me. I'm kind of like on the fence. I'm not sure whether they're obviously, we know that there's some kind of ulterior motive that hasn't been revealed, but do you think he has a genuine compassion for the other Majins? Like, do you think that's an actual reason why he'd be working with
Oh, hell no. Did you not see the way Pansy looked at him when she first came into the picture? She kind of looked at him like, yo, there's something up with you.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And Glorio too. Glorio was like, it looks like either they're aware of each other or they're acquaintances or perhaps even strangers, but there's that feeling there. So I don't like Pansy. I think she's absolutely useless, but I will say that even she had picked up on the fact that there's something kind of off with this guy. So I think if anything, she might be the one to kind of put two and two together, because it looks like Shin is kind of oblivious, Goku's oblivious. Not more so Shin, because it looks like finally he's not as dumb as we've seen him, be prior. But and I like that. But I think it's going to be Pansy. I think because Goku's in his own little world, I think Pansy should be the one to be like, wait a minute. You're working with you've been talking to so and so, you've been doing this and this, because she happens to live down there too. So if anybody's gonna know of like these little tricks to the trade of how to contact and kind of do like secret stuff, when no one else is looking, it would be her. So I'm hoping that's the case. I really hope that she rats him out, because only from there are we gonna see something kind of sprout about where he either reveals like, okay, haha, I've been trying to do this and this for these reasons, or he's gonna try to deny it, which I think is going to be a little weird, but I'm hoping whatever comes out of that with Glorio and company happens towards the end. I really want to see them kind of screw over Gomah in a way where he remains. So Gomah kind of positions himself to believe, yes, I'm going to be the Demon King now. Haha, like, look at all this power I'm going to have. You're all screwed, right, guys? Guys? And they're all like, no. Oh, you thought we were in it to help you? No, we don't like you. We actually had a different plan. See, we're going to be the ones to take over, not you. That would be different. Now, because it's like, then we have Gomah just standing there like a sack of potatoes. He's thinking that he's going to be, the Demon King, whatever, but the behind his back, this entire time, his own people screwed him over. I think that'd be pretty cool. I think that's different. I think that's kind of needed, because from that point, you can kind of establish something to which either you don't have to destroy the demon realm at the very end. You can kind of play it off to which whoever's going to be opposing our heroes, they take care of them, and perhaps maybe at that point Gomah does become the actual Demon King, but not someone who's malevolent or someone that has devious intention towards our heroes now, but more or less for Gomah to be like, you know what? I made a mistake by doing what I did. You helped me out by kind of getting rid of these guys. We can call a spade here, and hell, whenever you want to come back and visit, you're more than welcome to do so. Bada bing, bada boom, right? So maybe if they ever decide to tie this into Super, which there's no empirical evidence to prove so, but if they do, maybe at some point down the line, during or after Black Frieza, during or after Oob, one of them can just be like, oh, do you guys remember the Demon Realm? What do you say we go back down there just to say hi to Gomah, because it's been a long time? Something along those lines. You don't have to make enemies with Gomah and company. But I really think that the person among their group that needs to be the traitor and needs to be outed for said reasons is Gloria.
Now, on the note with Gomah, now obviously I think we're both in agreement. He's gonna be tricked, and so I think he's not the final villain. I think we can all agree on that. Something's gonna happen most likely. Now, do you think he's going to get the third eye? That relic that they said that was long lost during the reign?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. And nor would I want to. I think the third eye, the individual that should either get the third eye, individual or individuals, should be Degu and Glorio. I think Dr. Rinso ought to be the one that's pulling the strings. I don't think that she should be a fighter. I think she should be the brains of the operation. But I definitely feel as though if you're going to give it to one person, thus far, the only one that's had any sort of credibility in this series has been Glorio over Degu. Degu hasn't done anything. This little wannabe Zamasu, he hasn't done anything. So I don't think he deserves it. So if I had to choose between him and Glorio, I would say Glorio. But if they were to give it to two people and buff up their powers, or at least have Dr. Rinso kind of influence something to which she creates an outing where either one of them or both of them end up being Majin Buu level or above, would be great, because that creates tension, an interesting dynamic between our heroes. Goma's left on the side. He doesn't know what to do because his position's in trouble. He's, wanting to be the Demon King all the while to have his own people kind of turn out to hate him this entire time. So he's kind of relying on Goku and friends to get the job done. Our heroes are getting their butts whooped. So it's like they're stuck in a very peculiar position where they have no other outing but to maybe use fusion or something of the sorts. That's what I'm waiting for. And I hope that something along those lines happens, because if we just continue on this slow burn pace, nobody's a threat, we're just gonna shit behind the bush, like, it's boring. Even OG Dragon Ball had its so-called boring moments, but even its boring moments were 10 times more entertaining than this. So I'm hoping that they go into that, because it'll create a sense of, kind of subverting expectations, because I'm pretty sure that maybe some people are expecting for Goma to and company to actually be the main ones that are going to be responsible for giving our heroes the final fight, but I don't think that's what they should do, because if you kind of want to swerve people, which Toriyama, God rest his soul, loved to do, Toriyama loved to twist expectations and kind of switch it on you. I think that's what they need to do. I think Goma should be kind of forgiven, and not to say that he becomes a part of the team, but is more or less one of those people that you can just be neutral with, cordial with, because he messed up, you kind of helped him, he owes you, he can help our heroes, and then from there, maybe he could suggest, all right, well, for helping me, for looking after me, you're more than welcome to come back whenever you want. Since I'm the ruler now, but I'm not going to be like Deborah or Set Party, I'm actually going to be a bit more lenient with certain things, and then they can just progress from there.
Yeah, no, so I think in regards to the third eye, I actually don't want Goma to get it, because it would be like too linear. Like,
okay, so we agree. So yeah, no Goma.
I don't.
Okay, so who do you want?
So I think you brought up either Degasu or Glorio. I am actually hoping it's Degasu, just because now here's the thing.
Zamasu.
Now exactly, and that's what I thought too. So the thing about Degasu is when he was introduced, he just seemed kind of like a little baby, right? He's like this attendant to this little goofy character that looks like a ripoff of Monica and the one Pride Trooper. Like, he's a ripoff of those two characters put together. Now here's the thing. He doesn't seem knowledgeable, right? Like, I mean, this is our first introduction to a Makaioshin, right? And we still don't even know if he's truly a Makaioshin. He could be like a helper assistant. We don't know the true, his true history yet. It hasn't been revealed, but he does not strike us as a very convincing, ulterior motive kind of guy. Like, he has those scary faces, the same faces that Zamasu would make, but he does not have, he gives off a lot of Shin vibes, which is not a good thing, because Shin is not exactly the most reliable at many things.
So wait, are you getting more innocence from him?
I don't know if I want to say innocence. He could be
not innocence in a way where he would never do any wrong, but innocence in a way where he's actually like just going along and listening to Goma because he's respectful and he really wants to abide by whatever it is that he's doing. Kind of like just, actually taking commands and orders without giving pushback.
I that's how it first seemed, but then rewatching some of the episodes, especially his conversations with Dr. Arensu, which is his sister, obviously when they were having those conversations, it almost seemed like the power dynamics change. It's like they're the ones in charge, because they're talking about the logistics of Goku and his friends, how they could still be perceived as a threat, because Goma at the time didn't really seem to think of it as being a threat until it kind of got pushed onto him, which is part of their plan. I think that he is involved, whether it's with Dr. Rensu or through another group that we haven't seen yet. I definitely think he has the recipe to do something, to be like a striking villain or a final antagonist, but based off the execution so far, it's like, it's not there yet. But because of his relationship to Shin, being brothers or siblings, I keep getting a lot of Shin vibes, because Shin's not exactly the most reputable person when it comes to giving information like expositions or even just being a powerful foe. So I'm just, that kind of biases is showing, at least when I see him. But I think he actually, based off the current character dialogue that we've gotten, especially in episode 7, or I think it was episode 6, when they're going over the dynamics between each other, where they said that he was very, very, very ambitious and he didn't get along with his other kind. It makes me seem like he's got something going on. Like, I don't think he's like as clever as Zamasu and he has like a zero mortal plan that he's worked on, but he's got the workings of what could be something like Zamasu. It's just that we haven't seen it yet. I actually would prefer him to have the the third eye or whatever else is involved in that plan. Let's not forget that he also wanted to make a wish, right? He wanted to use one of the 3 Earth Dragon Ball wishes that they had, but they couldn't make it because they weren't, you know, frequent comers to Shenron. So he was going to make a wish. I mean, he could have right then and there wished for the third eye for himself, or he could have wished for something like disastery, like, you know, something, you know, very villainly, but obviously we never got to see it. I think he might be like, I think what's going to happen, and this is, you know, my theory, you just tell me what you think. I think they're going to get the 3 Demon Realm Dragon Balls, and we assume that Glorio or Dr. Renzu have some kind of plan with those Dragon Balls, but I would not be surprised if maybe it's Degusu who steals the wish. Like, I think Degusu could use that wish, and we know it's black magic base, so it could probably do something as crazy as, like, say, killing somebody, because I think that's possible with the black magic wish, but it could also be something as crazy as, like, ultimate power. But then again, we've also seen a wish like ultimate power made in the Granola arc. So I think he's going to do something. I think he might steal the wish from our group. But I think he is the one that should get the third eye if it comes into play, which I think it will because you see it in the opening. What do you think about that?
No, that's fine, because then we disagree on who should get the 3 eye. Because I either suggested if you're going to give it to 1 or 2, it should be Glorio and Degusu. But if anything, I think it should be Glorio over Degusu, just because of the reasons provided that he was able to showcase more and do more within the series. So therefore, if anyone's going to steal anything, I think it should be him. And even hell, if he's not going to fully cooperate, then that could only confirm or substantiate the idea that he was only in on it for himself. He did not care about anyone other than himself. And I think that would be a little different, because maybe even Dr. Rinso can just be taken back by this to be like, you know, how could you double cross me? And Glorio can just be like, well, how can I not? You double crossed Gomah. So, like, does it really matter at this point? So, either or, whoever it ends up being, you're suggesting that perhaps you wanted to, you know, essentially be Degusu. I want it to be Glorio. But I think, just to kind of give like my final thoughts here about this, is I'm hoping that everything does wrap up in a way where it's sensical. It gives us a sense of closure. I really want Gomah to be alive, because from that point they can always reintroduce the concept of perhaps maybe them going back down there because of Gomah's graciousness after our heroes had helped him, which they really didn't have any reason to, but because of the circumstances and situation, you know, they did what they did, and then he can just pay them back by owing them something. But thus far, I'm hoping that there's more twists and turns and kind of like sidetracks that introduce like different elements to the story, because if it continues to go and just be very linear, then it's just going to be boring. Now, boring doesn't suggest bad, but boring is just boring. So that's why when Degusu was, or at least in this case when Glorio was found out to be talking to Dr. Aritsu, I was intrigued by this, because that only begs the question of where do they go with him moving forward? Is it going to be all 3 of them? Is it just going to be him and Arinsu? Maybe they're going to double cross even Degusu and to leave him on the side. You know, so these are interesting questions. But I definitely can't wait to see like where this goes, especially with the Tamagamis, because I'm hoping that they're going to be somewhat of imposing figures to our heroes that give them a run for their money. Because if not, then what was the point of hyping them up this whole time? To just be like, oh yeah, they're super, super powerful and dangerous and blah, blah, blah. They're not villains, they're guardians, so they're supposed to fulfill their, you know, their due duties to look after the Dragon Balls. So I'm hoping that ends up, you know, going the way it does, and it actually, you know, ends up being very entertaining, which I think it will. But I think towards the end, that's where I stand with Gomah and company.
Okay, no, that's fair. That's fair. I like Glorio. I definitely could see him getting the third eye. I just feel like he's got a little bit of a role, kind of like Granola. Like, I think he's gonna help Goku and his friends near the end when he realizes the error of his ways. Whenever the true final villain is revealed, I think that's the role he's gonna be playing. So I don't think he would need something as crazy as like the third eye power up. He could do something else. They've teased fusion, so obviously there's something like that at play most likely. But in regards,
wait, one thing before we go, everything that I said about Buu, do you not agree? Do you not think that adding Buu in the Demon Realm would have been a far better choice than anything else?
That was actually a great idea, because with this whole, the fact that it's a sequel to the Buu arc, and the fact that almost every arc where they overcome the villain and make friends with, you know, the people that were related to the villain, you know, the Goku effect, that would have been a great thing to see, you know, good Buu allying with Goku who they were enemies at one point, and then also Shen, which was like
exactly, because Majin Buu was remember Buu was the enemy to the Kais.
Yeah,
and now they're working alongside. He's working alongside the Kais and Goku Immortal. So that would have been. You cannot sit there and tell me that they did not fumble the ball. That they did not fumble the ball and the bag on this, because by adding Buu and again, they can keep his innocence. I liked how he ran past the camera, even though it was for a second, and he was screaming "Boo!" But having him be a part of this, especially after having to come off a few months following Kid Buu's defeat, would have been great. You don't have to have Ultimate Gohan down there if you don't want to, fine. If you don't want to have anyone else aside from Piccolo and Vegeta join them, that's fine. But if anything, they should have added Buu, because everyone down there knows of Buu. They're practically scared of him. There's, this whole ordeal of mentioning and talking about Majins and Majins this or Majin that. Who cares? Here's the real Majin. Here's the main Majin, the one that stems from Bibbidi. This is what I think that would have been something that would have created such a dynamic. And again, he's good Buu, so he doesn't have to go on a freaking rampage and destroy everyone. And he could just, be very innocent, just like he always is, until push comes to shove, where someone, either the Tamagamis, maybe Gomah and company, force Buu into that position, similarly to how Moro had forced Buu on Planet Namek when they had encountered each other, to which Majin Buu's like, all right, I'm done having to be nice, it's go time. Kind of like how it was with, I think it was Basil. Even though Hercule was there to kind of influence that, when Buu got serious. Buu got real serious. So that would have been an interesting dynamic to see how the previous antagonist is now working alongside the protagonist to fight against an enemy who is perhaps equal to him in power or stronger than Kid Buu, because then we have Goku and Buu working together alongside with Shin, where they just came off of a great battle, having a battle against them literally in the arc prior. That would have been sick. But no, we get something else. But maybe, hopefully I'm wrong. Maybe at some point Buu, they happen to get Buu involved somehow. And the reason why he's so important, and some people in the video might go, why are you mentioning Buu so much? Is because Daima is centered around Majin Buu, around the premise of Buu, the events of Buu, everything involving who Buu is, what Buu is about, how Buu murdered their literal king, Deborah, right? So it's like, that's why Buu's important, is because he's been referenced every single time during every single episode, mentioning how there's so much that correlate with him, but yet he's not down there. That is amazing to me.
I hope you're right. I do hope later in the series they do somehow get Buu involved, and of course people want Gohan to be. I think Gohan's already off to being a scholar, so he's already going in the direction of Resurrection F.
Hey, you know what? God bless him. Do that. Keep him as a scholar, because at that point you've already established he's one of the strongest, non-fused characters in the series at that point prior to BOG. Fine. So replace Gohan with Buu. And why is Buu important? Well, let's use what Pansy talked about. He has various different abilities and magical techniques that he can use to help either aid our heroes, or even from a medic standpoint, if someone gets hurt, we do know that Buu can heal. We do know that Buu can absorb. We know that Buu can do many things. So even if Goku and company come across a situation to where they're doomed, Buu can always be there to help. That would be really cool.
Yeah, and like I said, fusion. He was able to separate the Kais, Shin and Kibito, but obviously fusion.
Yeah.
And we've seen him when Buu really wants to fight, he puts in the work, and we saw was it Fit Buu during the Tournament of Power. So there's things like that could be used, as well as the fact that literally Buu, whether we're talking about the Super Constantly or otherwise, he has the Dakaio Shin inside of him.
Right,
which is something that could come into play lore-wise if they were to bring him on the adventure. So I hope you're right. I really do think, especially because remember they mentioned those spells, like those spells that separate the three worlds. Because they brought them up, I think they're going to be broken, obviously, and we're also going to find out who set them up. I don't think it was King Abora. I don't think it was Deborah. I think it might be. This is the final thing I want to leave you with. So obviously we've seen Gomah. There's a possibility that there's someone even higher than Gomah. Do you think they're going to set up godlike entities either by the end of Daima or leading into possibly Super? Do you think there's going to be like a Dark King like they had in Superheroes? Do you think?
See, but they've kind of, and I know it's different continuities, but if you don't have to, if you don't need or want to introduce someone new, just bring in either Mechikabura or Demigra. Those characters have established lore. They are, I believe, known as demon kings, demon gods, right? They have, I think it's Mechikabura has his own freaking clan, Gravy, Poutine, right? So we can introduce that. And if you don't want to go down the route of, oh man, they're bringing in, characters from Dragon Ball Heroes / Super Dragon Ball Heroes into the continuity of Daima / Dragon Ball Super. Oh no, whatever shall we do? Too edgy. Fine. Then I guess they can introduce something new, something kind of similar to those characters, because Mechikabura works. He comes from an ancient time. Very, very influential, very powerful. Same thing with Demigra. So if they want to do that, they can, and I'm hoping that if they don't go into the route of introducing such characters, then they introduce, maybe like you mentioned, some sort of a deity, ancient god, dark demonic god that pre-stems all of that predates all of that from like way back, way back when. Fine. If not, then I guess we're going to have to wait and see. Maybe whoever they have now is going to be it until the foreseeable future. But if the events of all of this leads to the awakening of something more, then I'm hoping that it's something just as interesting as it was with Mechikabura and company, because those characters and their influence and their motives and the way they kind of methodically went about things, I think was really unique. So if you want to do that with the Demon Realm, I mean, I guess they could, but I don't think they will. So to that, since I don't believe that they're going to use Demigra or Mechikabura, even though I would like for them to do that, I think that they should, or I think what they will do if that ends up being the case, is introduce someone new who is old and then take it from there. And if that ends up being the case, fine. Then as long as they establish the fact of like this ancient being or whatever it is turns out to be someone that has a reputable title similar to Beerus as being a deity who is very feared in that realm, then that is something to look forward to.
All right, well, that's well said. I'll just end off by saying I do agree with a lot of things you've said. My things when it comes to Daima was I like the lore. I do think that this could have been an arc in Super. This is what Emish thinks. And so unless they do, and if they go in a totally different direction where they don't set up things like godlike threats, then it does make it seem like a missed opportunity in my opinion. But going off to that point, I really do hope they do something like that. It doesn't have to be, like you said, exactly like Mechikabura, but they should set up something like that, an agent deity or threat, so that way it can be used as fuel for another future super arc. Last thing I'll mention is, in regards to kind of possibility of a new form, I'm hoping that this form is something unique. Obviously, we don't see it in Super. So if it's a Demon Realm exclusive form, I think that would make sense. But I'm hoping it's something that is, scalable, like something that where if Goku happens to use it in Super, if they do visit the Demon Realm, which they probably will, I'm hoping it is something that scales. I don't want it to be like something that's Buu Saga level power only, So that's something to think about. But I want to thank you for coming on, man. It's been a while since we've had a long
No, of course, yeah, we haven't spoken in a while.
I want to speak again with you about Super, the future of Super, and I want to speak with Emish because Emish he's had a lot of valid points too. I would like to bring him on and kind of see where he's feeling with the current state of Daima and maybe Dragon Ball in general. But I want to thank you for joining on, man. Like I said,
Thank you for having me, man.
And I'm sure we'll be together on similar projects.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, and thank you all so much for watching. If you guys disagree, feel free to disagree. If you guys agree, then feel free to agree. But again, I don't think anyone should take JD's opinions or my opinions to heart and just either assert that we're fanboys or haters. I am neither for Daima. I'm enjoying Daima for what it is, but I'm also frustrated at Daima for what it is because I always feel like there could be something better. And for the reasons I've mentioned with Buu, with other characters, with the villains being completely subpar, but to that, I'm hoping that as Daima progresses before it, kind of concludes at some point during 2025, it leaves us off with something to look back on and just be happy about, to say, okay, we had a slow start, but damn, was it a good ending,
Yeah, no, same. Like I said, I mean, this is potentially Toriyama's last project, so I'm really hoping it goes out with a bang, and I'm hoping it appeals to a lot of our wishes when it comes to the criticisms. So again, thank you, man, for joining, and we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
All right, thank you for having me, man. Later, everybody.
See ya. Thank you.